Welcome everybody to the SharePoint Partner Showcase story, and awesome to have actually this series started. So this is going to be a bigger series where we're going to walk through different partners and different solutions which are built on top of SharePoint, and specifically on SharePoint Online and Microsoft 365. And quite often, actually, those solutions have pieces which are integrating from other areas and all of that. And we'll definitely showcase all of those different scenarios as we move along within this longer series. Now, today, we have Advania as the first partner within the series. Thank you for joining us. Before we go to the intros, quickly just recapping, my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a Principal Product Manager for Microsoft and working in the Microsoft 365 community and open source and partner areas. And I think my role is a bit complicated, but let's get to your role and the actual stars of the day. So David, let's start with you. Can you do a quick intro of you and also potentially Advania?
Of course. Hi, everybody. I am David Bowman. I'm the product director for Fresh Intranet at Advania, based in the UK. Advania is a MSP business based in Scandinavia in the UK. We have offices all over Northern Europe, providing customers with a range of different services, Microsoft 365, as well as lots of other third-party solutions as well. And the area of the business that I'm responsible for is our Fresh Intranet product. Fresh is a SharePoint intranet solution that we started building back in 2015, mostly focused in the UK. And we have been following the Microsoft vision strategy roadmap for SharePoint over the last 10 years, moving from classic to modern and into the era of AI as well.
Yes, indeed. It's a really exciting time because again, we have something new again from on-prem to the cloud, and then SharePoint framework, and then the era of AI is bringing a lot of new.
The things you've got to keep up with never ends.
Yes, that's true. That is so true. It keeps on growing. Now, Jarbas, quick intros from your side as well. So, what's your role in Advania?
Thanks, Vesa. Thanks actually for having us here today, Vesa. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you, talking to the community. So I'm Jarbas Host, the Senior Product Manager for Fresh. I'm also Microsoft MVP, and I have been building solutions on top of initially SharePoint on premises, and then SharePoint Online for around 15 years. So it's great to carry on this development, this work in the Microsoft platform. It's a very nice place to be building solutions.
Yeah. So David is more from the business side of the house, and then Jarbas is more from the technical side of the house and knows where the skeletons are buried. So let's actually deep dive on that side. So David, can you talk a bit about if we think about the Fresh Intranet? What is Fresh Intranet? What does it actually provide for customers on top of the SharePoint Online?
Sure. All right. So going back to the sort of origins of this thing. Back in 2015, the organization, which was Content and Code at the time, which was a kind of boutique SharePoint development shop, what we started to see happening in our market was lots of third-party software as a service intranet solutions popping up. They were great. They worked really well. What customers liked about them was in those first meetings, discussions, it was tangible, right? They could see something. A branded solution, the features and functionality were able to be demoable. We were walking in following those solutions with lots of discussions about workshops and whiteboarding and running workshops with customers, and not really able to show them what the solution was going to look like. So, we recognized we needed to do something here, right? We were losing ground to vendors that, had these incredibly creative and attractive solutions. So we took some IP that we had in our organization, right? Every SharePoint project that we started began with a kind of a layer that worked for us. That layer we rebadged as Fresh, set it up in both. At the time, it was an on-premises and cloud version of a kind of SharePoint intranet. And customers really, they loved seeing something in SharePoint, right? It didn't require them to move all their content off to some third-party platform. It was an accelerator at the time. It gave them a leg up, so that we were able to spend time with the customer on the stuff that mattered, right? The conversations, the adoption, the documentation, rather than loads of boring conversations about content types and metadata and architecture, right?
Yes.
People don't care about those things in those projects.
Yep.
And I guess that ethos hasn't really changed, right? Fresh today is a representation of an intranet workload in SharePoint, right? And the team that are managing and own and love the intranet in their organization have something that is scope defined. It's got some edges. As they're adding things to the intranet, they aren't just disappearing into the ethos or into SharePoint, right? They feel like they're part of this kind of branded intranet solution, but with all the benefits of being in SharePoint, right? Being able to pull data in from other places, secure, storing information in SharePoint. The ethos of the product hasn't changed. The technology is obviously evolving over time.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Jarbas, maybe a question for you. Talking about the technology evolving, how have you seen a bit more on the technical side of the technology evolving and the opportunities what the technology is enabling for partners to do?
So, well, I think like when it comes like to the SharePoint platform, right? So it's as you said, or that David mentioned, so it's a platform that has been evolving constantly, and that makes it very attractive for us vendors to build our solutions, because if we think like how SharePoint has evolved recently, we see like really great capabilities coming when it comes like to the pages, right? So we have flexible layouts, have all of these new capabilities coming in. And then as a vendor, basically running a solution on top of SharePoint, we have our clients basically benefiting of all of the awesomeness that SharePoint is basically delivering and all of these innovations, also when it comes like to Copilot. So like more capabilities coming in that our clients can use along with all of the capabilities that we provide. So the internet workload, the internet capabilities. So like that's one of the I think the huge benefits of being running on SharePoint. Plus also things like the extensibility options that SharePoint provides. So we are an internet solution that has a huge API set by leveraging the SharePoint REST API, by leveraging the Graph API, also like the Power Platform. So those are also benefits that our clients have and allow them like to integrate, extend our own intranet in SharePoint.
There's a couple of really tangible benefits on the sort of business side as well, related to the technology that building on SharePoint means that as a partner, we're able to focus on helping our customers rather than spending a lot of time thinking about the best way to set up security and permissions or build a CMS.
Performance and yes.
All of those things are being taken care of by Microsoft R&D. The constant inspection and investment that's going into the ecosystem and SharePoint means we're able to focus on the things that matter most to our customers so that they're able to focus most on their business. Trying to build all of the ecosystem and architecture and infrastructure is expensive, right? Those require a lot more investment, documentation, testing. It sounds like a weird thing to say, but when we get RFPs from customers and you get an Excel spreadsheet that is 10 worksheets long, 200 lines of questions on security and where does our data live and what about uptime, of being able to reference all of the documentation that Microsoft have created on this. That's great. The time and energy saving for us is huge in that area.
Makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Now, coming back on the Fresh Intranet, and before we go to the actual live demo and just seeing a sneak peek on how does it actually work and what the Fresh brings on top of that, but can you kind of quickly explain what are the key capabilities what Fresh is still giving on top of the out-of-the-box capabilities? What does it actually mean that you're expanding the out-of-the-box capabilities with your own things? What could be examples of that?
Well, let me start, and maybe Jarbas can jump in with probably the things that I'm going to forget to say. I think first and foremost, it is that shape and definition to the intranet, right? I think one of the challenges that customers can have when thinking about specific workload like an intranet in SharePoint is where does it begin? Where does it end? What is it comprised of? Because, it's more than just a site or a collection of pages or some content in lists and libraries. It can span in some of our customers' environments thousands or tens of thousands of sites. and being able to keep that experience together, branded, maintaining the fidelity of the experience for employees. That is, I would say, first and foremost, one of the advantages of using something like Fresh that gives it some definition. Customers also get an injection of features and functionality that is kind of in line with those software as a service vendors that I talked about. We're always inspired by the great work that those vendors do, and we want to bring as many of kind of the SharePoint versions of the features and functionality commonly associated with those vendors into the product. And I'm sure that we'll look at some of those.
Yep.
If I may add something, so it's like we have an intranet in SharePoint, so it's not just about filling in the gaps that Microsoft leave, right? But we provide like a unified experience for organizations. So one example is when it comes like the content creation part, right? So we have an editor. Sorry, we have a content creation wizard from where like content creators can start the content creation, basically like from anywhere on the intranet. Then AI supporting this content creation capabilities, generating titles, descriptions, metadata, images, translation, so on. Then an editor calendar where you can basically get an overview of all of your content that's available for publishing on your intranet. Then follow like by multi-channel publishing, email, Teams, and then analytics on top of that. So helping people make sense of that data. So it's basically like providing kind of this overall package built in directly in SharePoint with all the benefits that you get there.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Now, I think it's easier to actually understand for those who haven't seen Fresh. Let's move to a live demo to get a live view on how will that look like in practice. I think, David, you're running the show. Take it away.
Yes. Okay, all right. I'm going to do a quick click through of some of the the key things that produce some ooh and ah moments in customer conversations. A couple of points of note before I move away from the screen. This is set up to help us demo to customers. In normal circumstances, our branding comes out, customer branding goes in, and that is supported through the standard way of doing branding within SharePoint. Typically, the customer wants to take as much ownership of this as they can do, right? We want this to look like their organization. It needs to be familiar for their employees, their iconography, their names, their labels, their imagery, their content, right? That is important that customers are able to take that level of ownership. So working down on the homepage here, our own global navigation, allowing some different styles, being able to embed content items into the global navigation. It can be security trimmed, can be automated. There's a fair amount of configuration that can go into the navigation. Over on the right hand side here, some apps that we've created that sit in the global nav bar. Things like SharePrice, as an obvious example. We have created our own intranet search, which may seem strange, but again, thinking about intranet as a workload, this allows for search within the workload rather than everything that's in Microsoft 365, which is obviously what the suite nav search is for. Employees are able to access their own profile, make changes to it if the organization that they work for wants to allow them to do that. Things like a little feedback form. We provide full support for translations into multiple different languages, and our own admin center, admin panel for the team that are going to be managing the intranet. We've got lots of options for display of content, news, applications, tools, links. We have full support for personalization, targeting of content using groups, but also we've rolled our own approach to personalization, kind of using content tagging, profile attributes, those kind of things to allow real depth in personalization and targeting of content. Some examples of areas that we've integrated with this panel here, showing me things like the Microsoft Teams that I'm a member of, unread emails from my mailbox, bringing curated conversations from Viva Engage into the intranet. This has been really useful. We've seen a lot of customers over the last couple of years, really making use of Viva Engage. This has allowed them to kind of pin and curate specific conversations because, as a dynamic platform, it can move quite quickly. Events, things like celebrating new hires or anniversaries in the organization, showing people what's changed, what's been updated in the intranet since they were last here. So, kind of some illustration of kind of key intranet features and functionality. Alongside that, we've done a lot of integrations with things like policies as an example of a way of bringing content and information in. This could be any type of content, a content type perhaps, or a specific type of document. Bringing that information into a single area. These are really powerful widgets that we've created using search, bringing content from lots of places into a single place, and can be navigated using the refiners or keyword search. And this is one area where we've built some integrations using the Microsoft Azure AI service. So, the scenario here for us has been, customers that have this content and information in the intranet in the form of these policies, but employees are still emailing requests to the HR team, right? Asking questions rather than reading, forgive me for saying
too many policies,
too many policies, long, boring documents, can't find the answer that I need. So, in this model, being able to say something like, can I bring my dog to work? Is a sort of kind of classic example. In Fresh, this has been configured to look at a certain catalog of documents within this library here. The scopes of this can be controlled in the web part. It's created an answer to my question, and it will only answer questions based on content in this document. So this isn't going outside the organization's network, right? So all happening within Microsoft 365 environment. Customers feeling good about security, those kind of things. And, we've seen this, work really well alongside Copilot for customers that are, buying licenses into Copilot and making use of that as a technology. This is not preventing that. This is kind of supporting the organization for exploring how to use AI in these specific circumstances.
Absolutely, because use case from an end user perspective is still the same. You're asking questions like in Copilot. Absolutely. So.
Exactly. Absolutely right. And, then, coming back onto the homepage, rather than a sort of straightforward intranet search, they also then, employees have the ability to just ask questions of the content that's in the intranet as well. So, rather than looking at a specific library or a specific scope, this is looking at content in this instance within the intranet workload. So, we're kind of thinking about traditional intranet scenarios. Those things are still relevant. People need navigation, search, but also bringing more answers to questions into the intranet as well.
Makes perfect sense.
A couple of other areas where we've integrated, if I drop this example news page into edit mode, we've created a little editor assistant that's going to walk the content creator through the process of updating metadata. So suggesting titles, summarizing the page, proposing tags, again, integrated with the customer's use of Azure AI here, no data leaving the organization. Some of the more popular features that we've added recently have been in this admin portal. So secure area for the team that are managing the intranet, things like an editorial calendar, newsletters, additional analytics, site requests to build out the intranet, as well as reports like this one, right? So this is showing me all of the content that lives inside the intranet. Very powerful component. Again, I can add multiple columns into this thing. I could export it out to Excel and do some of my own analysis. And we've added the ability to do batch update on some of those on the metadata. So I could say something like, the scenario here is perhaps one of my content owners is leaving the organization. And what I want to do is be able to reassign all of Mary's content to somebody else in the organization. So, being able to achieve that in a few clicks rather than going page by page, site by site, identifying this content. So, it's aimed at an employee digital experience for intranets and supporting the team that have got to be able to turn this into a really comprehensive, sharp experience for employees.
Makes perfect sense. And there's so many other features I know behind the scenes of Fresh. So this is just scratching the surface. But again, we do have a limit on this show. So we cannot show all of the individual things.
I could talk about this all week.
I can imagine. Yes, for sure. There's so many custom things behind the scenes, which definitely adds value for the customer. Now, awesome stat because you have the end user, you have the end editor experience is improved, and also the admin and governance pieces in place for the customer. So great implementation. Now, before we close up, so we don't actually go too long, because as I said, we can talk about this stuff. We could deep dive on technology, which I love as well, but let's not actually do that. But what I wanted to quickly just close up for the story is that if you would have the opportunity of asking Microsoft to do something for SharePoint Online or Microsoft 365, no limits whatsoever, completely unlimited asks, what would be your ask for Microsoft as a partner or as a customer who's using SharePoint Online specifically in this case?
Well, I guess it's probably no surprise to the SharePoint team who have heard this from us before. We love APIs.
Yeah.
We think about them. We like talking about them. We like using them.
Yes.
Anywhere that we can have additional options, toggles to build more value in for customers, that really helps us.
Yeah.
Also, like in the context of Copilot, right? So if there are more ways like to integrate with Copilot by APIs, so that would also be appreciated.
Yeah.
Yep. Completely understand it. And quite typical ask, actually. So you're not the only one who's doing this. And so definitely in the list of things which we are working on. And of course, those APIs enable you to build so much added value on top of the out-of-the-box features. So completely understand that. But I guess that's it from a timing perspective. Any last words for anybody who's looking like, Advania, this is really cool. Where do I actually find Fresh? Where should I go to have a look on more details on Fresh Intranet?
So freshintranet.com is our website. We also publish a lot of content through our LinkedIn page, as well as a showcase page of Fresh Intranet. And we run a regular podcast series through there as well, where we're interviewing customers, influencers, and a lot of familiar faces about the world of intranet, SharePoint, Copilot, and the era of AI.
Sounds really good. Jarbas, anything about to add?
Oh, just thank you, Vesa, again, for having us here. It's always a pleasure to talk to you this time via this show. So thank you.
Yeah, the partnership with Microsoft really means a lot to us. We've fully embraced it over the years, and have benefited tremendously from working really closely with you all.
Absolutely. I think it's a both side benefits, definitely. So Microsoft benefits from the partners and Advania specifically in this case, and of course the partners benefit from us. So it's a great partnership to provide additional value for customers through the services which we have. But thank you, David. Thank you, Jarbas. Really awesome, and would have loved to continue the discussion. But from a timing perspective, I guess we have to close. So thank you both for being on the show.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.